Hey, what's happening? It's Silas back with another book for the year, The 10X Rule. It's a book, as you can see, pretty tattered. I read this book back in 2014 for the first time, and that was actually a period when I really uh, began dedicating myself to reading more often. At that time, I wasn't reading every day. And I certainly wasn't reading the number of books per year that I'm reading now. But nonetheless, this was the book that sort of got me in the habit of reading more often than I had previous to that point. Um, I read the book again in part because I thought the book was really powerful, but also, just being honest, I blow through books so fast that I forgot to order the next new book. And so this book was laying around, and I thought it was a good time for me to pick it back up. As I mentioned, I read it in 2014, but one thing I've learned is that when you read something for a second time or a third time, or even more than that, you always get something new out of that experience of reading it over again. This book, again, the 10X Rule, is written by Grant Cardone. Uh, this is my second Grant Cardone book that I've read, the second this year that I've read. The first this year was Sell or Be Sold. This book, the 10X Rule, I believe is probably one of the foundational products that he has. And the 10X Rule is the in his description, the difference between success and failure. And what the book is getting at is that you have to anticipate resistance. And so whenever we set a goal, whenever we want to accomplish a goal, we have in our minds sort of a general idea of how much it'll take. And with anything that we want, it always ends up being more than we expect as far as the resistance. And the resistance means those things we got to get through, those barriers we've got to get through to be able to make that thing happen that we want to happen. And so in the book, he talks a lot about success being a duty, and how if we look at success as an option, it's a very selfish perspective to have. So he's encouraging readers to think about all the great things we could do for our families, our neighborhoods, our communities, our tribes, the folks that subscribe to the same culture that we do. What more could we do if we committed to success? And the best way to commit to success is by anticipating that things will be 10 times harder. The good side of the book, because that's a real harsh reality, but a good side of the book is that he says, hey, listen, why not set your goals 10 times higher? So you can already anticipate the resistance being 10 times or 10x more than what you initially anticipated it being. Why not set the goal 10 times higher? So if you're doing some philanthropic work and you want to raise $10,000 for a mission or an effort, why not scale it up 10 times to $100,000? And so he talks about the importance of having goals that are really high. He gives some really simple examples. One of those examples is losing weight. You know, if you want to lose 5 to 10 pounds in preparation for an event, to be a high school reunion or a family reunion or homecoming, whatever it may be, it's actually harder to lose a small amount of weight than it is a larger amount. And he gives some examples that are along those lines in other facets of our lives as well. But I like the book. I wrote a lot of notes in the book previously. When I used to read books at that time, I would write in the book. Now I take notes on my iPhone notes. So I don't write in books anymore. But when I was looking at the book and looking at the notes, it's interesting now, 10 years later almost, the things that stood out to me then versus the things that I took notes on this time around. At the end of each chapter, or at least most of the chapters, there's some questions that he is posing to the reader. In the book Sell or Be Sold, it's more of a quiz where he's asking you questions to see if you read the chapter. This one, there are some quiz sort of questions, but there are also some open-ended questions for you to think about in terms of whether or not you've committed to the goals that you're setting out to make a reality. And so I recommend the book to anyone who has a goal-oriented mindset, but you may be concerned about how much effort it takes to actually accomplish the goal. A person who has ambition, but maybe the person is not anticipating what has to go into making that goal work. So this would be a really good gift, I think, especially for a person who knows a relatively young person who's ambitious and looking to get into a particular industry or field, and they may be in over their head and they just don't know it. That would be a perfect person to give the book to. It's also a good book to give to a person who's in transition, a person who may be older in age, relatively speaking, who's looking to do some new things, some new great things. And this is just a book that allows you to anticipate the amount of commitment that's necessary to make things happen. So I always get something out of every book that I read. And for me, having read this book now twice, it's just important for me at this point to look at this book as an opportunity to recommit to some things that maybe I've put a half effort into, or a 3/4 effort into, maybe even a 100% effort, but it needs 200%. This book for me the second time around caused me to think about how I can scale the things that I aspire to get done, and why not go for the lofty goal, and why not put the 10x effort into making that happen. So the 10x Rule by Grant Cardone, a really, really good book. I highly recommend it. It is the book, again, that really got me into the space of reading. And so at this point in my life, with the things that I'm working on, reading this book again was right on time. For me, what I found in the last 3 years, it seems like every book that I've read chronologically, it's always been the right moment for me to see the message that was coming off of the pages. So I highly recommend the book. Thank you guys for watching this review. I try to keep the review short. I don't want to spoil people's reading experience, but I want people to at least hear enough about the book to go and get it. And if it's not the book for you, find a book that's for you and read it. Reading books on a daily basis has changed my life for the better. And I want to be in the business of helping people change their lives for the better. So check this out, the 10X Rule, if you like it. Leave a comment, like, subscribe to the page. Thank you guys for listening to it. And I'll have another book review pretty soon.